Velkommen til ukens Fokus. Hovedsaken i dette programmet et intervju vi gjorde med den israelske Viseambassadøren Eytan Halon. Dette en spesiell uke for Israel. For mandag fikk de hjem sitt siste gissel fra Gaza. Rangvili, etter 843 dager kom han tilbake igjen til Israel. Rangvili ble drept på 7. oktober, men hans døde kropp ble tatt med inn og holdt i fange i Gaza. Nå har han kommet hjem, og hans familie og nærmeste kan få lov til å holde en verdig begravelse for han. Det som spesielt for Israel at det ikke bare det siste gisselet etter 7. oktober, men faktisk så det for første gang på 12 år, så har de ikke et eneste gissel, israelsk gissel, tatt til fange av Hamas i Gaza. Så dette veldig spesielt for Israel, og Israel har jo selv sagt at den virkelige legedomsprosessen etter de forferdelige traumene de har blitt påført, kan ikke virkelig sette i gang for ordentlig før det siste gisselet hjemme, da etter 7. oktober. Og på mandag så skjedde da det, og så det jo også da tirsdagen 27. januar, den internasjonale minnedagen, Holocaust minnedagen for Israel. Dette skal vi snakke med Viseambassadøren om litt. Men først så skal du få litt informasjon om to programmer du skal få fredag og lørdag. For i forrige helg så var det avholdt Disippel 2026 i Oslo, under titelen «Disippelskap i en kjønnsforvirret tid». Vi var der og tok opp alle innleggene og gjorde en del intervjuer. Og alle innleggene vil du senere kunne få se utover på kanalen. Men fredag og lørdag denne uken så skal du få begge talene til hovedtaleren Katy Faust. For Katy Faust leder og grunnlegger av bevegelsen Them Before Us, altså Dem før oss. Hun har også gitt ut en bok om dette temaet. Og hvem dem? Jo, det barn. Hvem oss? Jo, det oss voksne. For vi lever i et samfunn hvor voksnes rettigheter blir satt før barns rettigheter. Vi har gjort det til at det en rettighet å få barn. Men du, sannheten jo at det jo barnas rettigheter å ha en biologisk mor og far. Så lever man i konstellasjoner eller man ikke kan få barn selv, det bare sånn som samfunnet har lagt opp til at vi kan gå og bestille oss et barn? Hva med barnas rettigheter? Hvilke skader gjør det for dem ved å ikke kjenne til sitt biologiske opphav? Vi sier i dag at bare vi elsker barna, bare de har noen trygge, gode omsorgspersoner rundt seg, så går det så bra med dem. Men gjør det? Hva sier statistikkene når vi ser at etter at skilsmisse begynte å bli en vanlig del i vårt samfunn, og vi ser psykisk og mental helse og lidelse hos unge mennesker? Dette har en sammenheng. Dette et budskap som Katy Faust reiser verden rundt og deler. Og vi skal på fredagen få hennes budskap, selve hovedbudskapet, og lørdagen skal vi få hennes tale om metodene. Hvordan kan vi forandre det i dag? Hvordan kan vi få satt barnas rettigheter først? Så begge de to innleggene vil du få, pluss en del kortere innslag fra de andre talerne, sånn at du får et lite innblikk om hva hele Disippel 2026 omhandlet da. Men jeg vil bare si igjen, selve innleggene, alle talene vil senere komme også på kanalen. Så du som ikke var der og lurer på, ja, men jeg vil se alt, ja, du skal få det etter hvert. Men fredag og lørdag denne uken så blir det da i hovedsak Katy Faust sine taler, og litt intervjuer og korte innslag fra de andre som deltok på denne konferansen, som ble arrangert av 3 organisasjoner. Det er Stiftelsen for mor, far, barn, Foreningen for Bibel og Bekjennelse og Verdialliansen. Vi fikk også gjort et intervju med Katy Faust, det skal du også få senere, men hun ga en kort presentasjon om hvem hun var, så dette skal du få se, før vi da etter det direkte setter over til intervjuet vi gjorde med Viseambassadør Eytan Halon på tirsdagen.
My name is Katy Faust. I'm the founder and president of Them Before Us, a global movement that seeks to defend children's fundamental natural right to their mother and father. I started this organization because I didn't see anybody else speaking up on behalf of children when it came to matters of marriage, divorce, IVF, sperm and egg donation, surrogacy, parenthood laws, who goes on a birth certificate, rising cohabitation rates, the normalization of polyamory and open marriages. All of those conversations are obsessively focused on what adults want. And it's always children who pay the price. They can't speak for themselves. They can't present at conferences. They don't do interviews, and they don't vote. It's up to me, and it's up to you to defend them. That's what Them Before Us is for. We are going to give children a voice in these matters, whether it's the cultural space or in the political space. Children deserve to be represented and defended. So we work to make sure that people first consider, what about the child when we're talking about these kinds of questions around marriage and family, and prioritize their rights. That takes a lot of clarity on exactly how children are made to pay when we get these questions wrong. And it takes a lot of courage, because there is a cost for those of us who choose to speak up on behalf of children. But kids are worth it, and I hope you'll join me.
Charge the affair of Israel, Eytan Halon, welcome here to our studio, Fokus.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. We've met before, but this is my first time in the studio.
Yes, and I think it's almost 6 months, a half year, since we met at your office at the Israeli embassy. How has this half year been, Eytan?
Well, it's always a challenge when you start a new position. It takes some time to learn. So it's 6 months of learning, but also 6 months where a lot has changed. I arrived in August 2025. The war was still going on. Today, thankfully, we're in a very different position. And that's great. So that impacts our work, but it impacts the environment here in Norway. And very importantly for us, it impacts the atmosphere back home in Israel. And that things are moving in the right direction.
And I will talk later about how you have been working with companies, because we see the government and the newspaper are saying something, but what's really going on, what you've been doing here, when you've been here. But first of all, we are celebrating with you and so happy that the last hostages came back on Monday.
That's right.
And today it's the Holocaust Remembrance Day, so we stand here with you and memorize and celebrate with you. So will you say a little bit about those two things?
Sure. And I know, and firstly I must say I really appreciate the support. I make it very clear to my headquarters back home in Israel that there are so many in Norway who truly care about Israel, who care about the Israel-Norway relationship. And they're not everything that you hear in the media about, you know, bad relations and politics, that doesn't tell the whole story about Norway. So that's important for me to say. Regarding those two matters, well, it's brilliant news that finally the last hostage has been retrieved and his body brought back to Israel for a proper burial. You know, we waited 843 days to be able to say there are no more hostages in the Gaza Strip. And the pain and the open wound that there was in Israeli society, which was not possible to heal or close until every single one of those Israelis and others, foreign citizens, came back. And finally that happened on Monday with the return of Rangvili. I also should say, yes, it's 843 days since he was taken captive and the start of the war on October the 7th with that horrific terror attack. But actually it's the first time in 12 years that we don't have any hostages in Gaza.
Yes.
Because we still had hostages in Gaza from the war that we fought against Hamas in 2014. So we're talking about first time in 12 years with no hostages in Gaza. So that's very welcome news. And yesterday we saw how powerful it was in Israel. It's happiness mixed with sorrow, because we wish that all these hostages would have been brought back alive. But in Judaism, there is so much importance that we place also on making sure that we give a proper burial to those who are no longer alive. So that we can now do. And the second question about International Holocaust Remembrance Day. So yesterday, on Monday, we had an event for ambassadors representing the member nations of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance at the synagogue in Oslo. It was a very powerful event with two incredible Holocaust survivors, Inga Lisa and Leif Grust, and they told their stories. And why is this so important? We're at this critical time. The survivors that we still have are very old, are very elderly, and with every year that passes, we're losing them. And that first-hand testimony is really fading away. And it's only a matter of years until the Holocaust will be in the history books and the textbooks. And there will no longer be those meetings, those encounters with the people who experienced it themselves. And that's a very scary and dangerous moment. We see the rise in anti-Semitism. We see the survivors fading away year on year. We see social media full of disinformation and misinformation. And so Holocaust education and the messages of the Holocaust have never been more relevant and important today. And each year when we mark Holocaust Remembrance Day, it's a reminder that we have to double down and increase our efforts to educate the young who will not know. I look at my daughter, she's very young. She will not have the opportunity to have a conversation with a survivor. She'll meet it in history lessons and history books and what we tell her at home. But that's the era that we're entering into. And we have to be very cautious and very careful.
Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, when you see the last hostage came back, and then you have this Remembrance Day, it's like God, how he put all this together.
It was a very powerful moment yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's this hatred, this anti-Semitism. It's the oldest hatred in existence. It always has been, it always will be, I imagine. But it mutates and it changes. And, today, in the streets of Europe, you can't go around and say, we hate Jews, we hate Jews. You can go around and say, we hate Israel and we hate Zionists. That's the mutation in action. And, those that committed the October 7th terror attack, Hamas, and other terrorist organizations in the Middle East, the anti-Semitism within this movement is the hatred for Jews and anything Jewish, and certainly the Jewish state. It's not about land, it's not about two-state solutions or political solutions. It's about killing Jews wherever you can find. It comes in a different format. It's not the Nazi Party of Germany and their collaborators, but it's an anti-Semitism which has existed and continues to exist, and we need to fight it wherever it's found.
Mm-hmm. Like you say, it mutated. We say we don't hate Jews, we hate Israel. It's the same thing.
No,
you can't...
The anti-Israel movement today has a serious problem with anti-Semitism. And those who are serious about combating anti-Semitism need to tackle it there as well. And so, when in the streets people shout global intifada, the meaning is clear. The intifada is a violent uprising that we saw by the Palestinians in the 2000s And that's what people are calling for on the streets. Okay, so they may not say we need to kill Jews, but the meaning of what they shout is very clear.
And we saw it on the Hanukkah celebration in Australia. All the Jews were murdered then. That when we shout this in the street, this is the same. You see the fruit of it.
Of course, words turn into actions.
Yep.
And what we saw in Bondi Beach in Australia is the horrific example of when that happens. You cannot expect that if we tolerate this in our streets, that there won't be individuals who turn this into actions, that they take a gun, or in this case, a father and son take guns and they murder Jews in Australia. That's the deadly result of what we see on the streets.
You were talking about there are few Holocaust survivors left in the world. How many are there, do you know?
Well, the numbers are... And there is research. I'm not sure of the exact number, but you see every year that it's getting smaller and smaller.
And as you say, when that generation died out, how to keep this alive so we don't forget. And we have seen now, very much since 7th of October, how they just deny that they even talk about it. It has been difficult to hold that truth up when they are alive, but now when the generation is passed out, how can we stand with you to help you to keep this not only as a forgotten history?
That's a great question, and it really is critical because it's not ancient history. It's within living memory, and if it happened in the 1930s, 1940s, it can happen now as well. How do we do it? Firstly, whilst the survivors are still with us, it's to invite them to as many meetings as possible. And those that are around are eager to tell their story. In schools, to audiences, in churches, to communities, they're there and it's their mission, it's their life mission to make sure that what they experienced is not forgotten. So I'd say invite them and speak to them. And there are wonderful projects going on at the moment about how to keep that testimony alive, using all sorts of interesting new technologies, whether it's through podcasts, through holograms, through various means. But really, as I said, time is running out. And where possible, it doesn't just have to be on Holocaust Remembrance Day. No. Once a year is not sufficient.
Exactly.
They are with us the whole year round. And that's why we need to set up as many platforms and as many frameworks as possible for them to share their story and for as many Norwegians as possible to hear their voice. And I really do worry that when they are not here, that there won't be that first-hand testimony. It will be the perfect opportunity for those who want to distort the Holocaust, to deny the Holocaust, to say, well, it didn't happen. We see it already. Maybe there weren't 6 million Jews murdered. Maybe it was less. Maybe the gas chambers in Auschwitz, they weren't what we saw immediately after the October 7th terror attack. How quickly people came out and said, no, it didn't really happen. Even though it was live streamed by Hamas terrorists, the denial happened immediately. With the Holocaust, it's still deemed unacceptable to deny the Holocaust or distort the Holocaust. In many places, it's also a criminal act to do so. But as we get further away from the events, then my concern is that people will give themselves greater opportunities to go out and say, well, it didn't happen, or it didn't happen exactly like that, or what we're told is not quite true. So, of course, meet the survivors, and the other thing which is necessary is to go to the concentration camps, visit the concentration camps, see it with your own eyes. How did Nazi Germany and its collaborators turn these places into huge machines of systematic killing and extermination? And how it could happen again. It started with, normal people, with words, with actions, and that was the final result. And
when you see the Jewish history, the anti-Semitism history, we see there's a spiritual thing here too, because in many years now, we have been saying with this Holocaust Remembering Day, or if it's other, like Kristallnatten, we say we will never forget. We have been saying that for decades.
Yes.
And then this happened in Israel 2.5 years ago, and we see it changed.
Yes.
Yes, you can be informed. We can do everything we can on that part, but it's a deeper part here. Yeah.
There is. And one of the real concerns about when we talk about Holocaust distortion is that within the anti-Israel movement, they take the worst things that happened to the Jews in the Holocaust and they put it on the situation in Gaza, give it an entirely different meaning, and say Gaza's a concentration camp. What Israel is doing is like, what the Nazis did in Germany. Well, in the best case scenario is that it's poor education and a complete misunderstanding of what happened in 1940s Germany. But what my suspicion is that actually it's a lot more severe than that, and that it's using the worst trauma that the Jews faced against the Jewish state. And it's been happening for years. I remember as a student on campus, I heard the same things. And over the last 2.5 years, during the war in Gaza, it's been accelerated. And not only does it distort and offend the memory of those who perished during the Holocaust, but it's used to attack the Jews today who are defending themselves in the state of Israel.
Well, we're talking about the situation now in Gaza, because now it's been months after the ceasefire agreement. What's going on in Gaza and Israel? What can you tell us about that?
So, since the ceasefire agreement, there have been various things going on. The first stage of the ceasefire agreement demanded that Hamas and Islamic Jihad, the terrorist organizations in Gaza, return every single hostage. And thankfully, we completed that on Monday. Now, the second stage, and really the rest of the plan, requires the demilitarization of the Gaza Strip and the elimination of Hamas. That means taking every weapon of Hamas and ensuring that it cannot pose a threat both to Israel in the future and to the peaceful future that we hope for the civilians of Gaza. Because there is no peaceful future, either for Israel or for the civilians of Gaza, if Hamas keep their weapons and are able to control the Gaza Strip. That's critical. That's what the Americans and the Trump administration have been clear about since they launched and we agreed to the 20-point plan put forward by President Trump. And that's what we're working on now. But the next stage, which is critical, is the demilitarization of the Gaza Strip. At the same time, Israel, since the ceasefire agreement was implemented, has made sure that all the humanitarian aid that was required under the plan goes into Gaza. So it's more than 4,200 trucks of aid every single week, humanitarian aid. Food, medical supplies, shelter goes into Gaza every week. And since the ceasefire agreement, there has been over 110,000 trucks of aid going into Gaza. And that's in coordination with the United Nations, with other countries, with private donors. And we have a coordination center which is led by the Americans in the southern city of Kiryat Gat, making sure that everything that goes into Gaza goes into the right hands. It's not enough just to put aid into Gaza, but rather learning from the past that that aid goes to the right people. It doesn't go to Hamas. It doesn't go to the terrorist organizations. It reaches the civilians that need it and nobody else. Only that way can we try and move forward to a more peaceful future and rebuild Gaza for the civilians that need it, rebuild upwards, not rebuild downwards, don't rebuild the tunnels and the terror infrastructure that Hamas, if it's allowed to exist and carry on, will immediately start rebuilding.
And when we are talking about Hamas, we know they are supported by Iran. And when we see what's happening in Iran now, since 28th of December last year, first, before we talk about what will happen when the regime fall in the Middle East, but let's first talk about since that demonstration started and it escalated and it's awful, it's horrible to hear stories that we don't hear here in media. You will go to other sources. How will you sum up this? It's almost a month now.
Yes. Well, firstly, we have to salute the bravery of the Iranian people. They are standing up to the most brutal, oppressive regime that exists. And when they go out to march and protest against the Iranian regime, they do so with the full knowledge that they may not come home. That they may be shot and killed or arrested and imprisoned for who knows how long. So they're very, very brave. And the horrific pictures that we do see coming out of Iran is really just a small part of it. There is no internet, and the amount that comes out is really just a small part of the picture. And the horrors there are far greater than we've seen either on the internet or on our TV screens. And the numbers that are being killed, it's difficult to know the numbers, but some range to the tens of thousands of innocent Iranians who came out to the streets just to oppose that brutal regime. And for us, we believe that this is a matter for the Iranians. But the Iranians wish to overthrow the regime, which is really, really unpopular. And we know that if they do so, there'll be a much better future for the Middle East. And I know that's the second part of the question. And we really hope that they succeed in doing so for themselves and for the wider Middle East, and really for the entire world. Iran is the #1 exporter of terror across the Middle East and the world. And we need to support those protesters in Iran and say, we really understand their bravery and what they're trying to do. And if the Iranians manage to put down these protests, well, Iran is not going to go back to before December the 28th. The anger is there. The people have said, it's more important for us to overthrow this regime than to stay at home, even when it's dangerous.
Even if it costs their lives.
Even at the cost of their own lives. And that's something that the Iranian regime knows it can't go back before December the 28th now. That's a new situation. That's a new situation that they have in Iran. And they are afraid. The regime is afraid, and they're right to be afraid.
And I know Israel is the nation who stands with the Iranian people. Are there any other in the Middle East who are standing with them?
Well, I think many stand with the Iranians. Whether they say it publicly or not, that's another matter. But nobody in the Middle East is going to miss the Iranian regime if it's overthrown. Of course, we all know the attacks on Israel by Iran, on Israel and the Jewish community around the world. We see it all over. But nobody in the Middle East will miss the Iranian regime if it's overthrown, because of the terror, because of the nuclear program, because of the instability that it spreads all around the Middle East. So they may not be saying it as strongly as Israel or the United States or the European Union, for that matter. I wish I would hear Norway say more. But certainly in the Middle East, everyone is looking, and it will be for the best for the Middle East and its citizens if the Iranian regime, if after 50 years almost of the Iranian regime, it's finally overthrown, and that there will be a new moderate leadership of Iran that is more interested in the welfare of its own people than destroying the Jewish state and attacking Jews worldwide.
And also they will say the lack of news here, and how the government here have standing with the Iranian people to condemn. I think this exposing from you see after 7th of October, very fast, the pro-Palestinian were out in the street. We had government, the newspaper, who just condemning it. It was the voice, we must stand with the hurting people in Gaza. But now, over 35,000, as they have in numbers, killed. Where are the voices?
That's right. You remember as well as me the protests in the center of Oslo and other major cities in Norway against Israel's self-defense. Iranians are slaughtered in their thousands or their tens of thousands. And where are the people on the streets? Where are the protests on the campuses? It really is. It says everything that you need to know. Those who care about human rights, NGOs that constantly, day in, day out, speak about Israel, Israel, Israel. When it comes to Iran, silence. So the question is it about human rights and the lives of these people? Or is it about an opportunity to attack the state of Israel? And I think these last few weeks have made that very, very clear. And there are some really strong voices in the Norwegian parliament who come out and they speak about what is happening in Iran. It should be very clear, and this doesn't just apply to Iran, but also to other terrorist organizations in the Middle East, that Norway should treat these organizations like the terrorist organizations that they are. That means designation and sanctions. It needs to happen to Hamas, it needs to happen to Hezbollah, it needs to happen to the Revolutionary Guards in Iran, those who are shooting their own civilians. That is critical. I think in order today to play a constructive role in the Middle East, as Norway wishes to do so, you have to treat the extremists and those who are destabilizing the Middle East in the necessary way. And that means taking action. In the same way that many countries in Europe have already done, that the United States has already done. That's really critical.
And the final topic I want to talk to you about, because we have heard, especially since the 7th of October, that we shall boycott Israel, draw oljefond out of Israel. But at the same, what's going on, really going? Because we read in the newspaper that there are tradings here between the nations.
Yes, look, there are those who are interested in putting politics in every place where they can find it. And finding every aspect and element of Israel and trying to stop that cooperation, which is so vital in so many fields. Look at the warships, the frigates that the Norwegians bought recently from the Brits. And there were those who said, but there are Israeli components in these warships, and this cannot happen and it cannot go on. But if Norway wishes to provide the best defense for its civilians, as every Norwegian citizen I think wants and wishes, then you have to cooperate with other countries that prioritize defense and invest in defense. And there is no country that, well, unfortunately, because of our experience and because of the wars that have been launched against us, has more experience in defending its citizens than the state of Israel. And it's clear that there should be cooperation there. But politics too often gets in the way. But then there are that's on a government level. But there is also the day-to-day business that is being done between Israel and Norway, and people that just want to cooperate. If you want either fantastic tomatoes or cucumbers and agricultural produce, then you can buy those from Israel. If you want to buy the best, or a company wants to develop the best medical technology in many fields, then they have fantastic partners in Israel. The same with agricultural technology or anti-drone technology, then Israel has a huge amount to offer. And our job here is to make sure, as much as possible, that politics doesn't get in the way of those interests, of those clear interests for cooperation. And from the grassroots level and business to business, and people can just work together with Israelis in order to bring the best solutions here to Norway and to bring the best solutions from Norway to Israel. That's a win-win situation, and that's what we're here to do, and try and facilitate that as much as possible.
I'm also thinking, how can we stand with you now? Because now the last hostages, body of the last dead hostage came back. And you've been saying you can't start the healing process before everyone is home. And you say it's not only for the last 843 days, for 12 years. There have been hostages before that too. How can we stand with you now? Because we hear stories from survivors from the Gaza tunnels. And I know also that someone decided not to live anymore because it's too painful, too hurtful.
Yes.
The healing process, how can they heal? How can we stand with you?
It's about telling the truth. Firstly, on a local level, to not stop speaking about the horrors that were committed on October the 7th and the suffering of those in both those that were taken hostage and the families that lost their loved ones. What else can be done? I think it's important to make sure that the community, I know the Christian community in Norway offers so much support to Israel, and that's really appreciated. And there are really fantastic initiatives coming out of the Norwegian Christian community to help those in Israel in many, many fields. And the need has never been greater. In addition, thankfully now there are direct flights from Copenhagen to Israel. The travel warning has been reduced, and you can travel anywhere in Israel, and it really is very safe today to travel around Israel. The threats that we had previously are no longer, and the sense of security in Israel has been very much strengthened. So I would encourage your viewers to get on a plane and go back to Israel and see it for themselves. And that's what strengthens Israel and Israelis more than anything, is understanding that they have friends coming from all around the world, including Norway. And I'm sure many of your viewers have visited. I encourage them to either visit for the first time or visit again and see what Israel has to offer and the wonderful things that Israel has to offer. And in doing so, you also support the civilians. And after these last 2.5 years, they need that support and they appreciate it more than ever.
I also think because very often we can have interviews and talk together when there are some like war matters like 7th of October, when there are some critical things. But there are so much going on in Israel that, like the Bible said, it's a blessing for the nation, the Abrahamic blessing God gave him, that Israel shall be a blessing to the nations. So I know Israel in Norway is a Facebook page we can go into, and your website. Will you share a little bit about that?
Yes, so we're working hard to show everything that Israel has to offer. Certainly the Facebook page of Israel in Norway is a place where we share that. We also have an X, or what used to be Twitter, account. We have a LinkedIn account. There we share, according to the characteristics of the page, what it is and what is interesting. So if you're interested in business opportunities, then LinkedIn is the place. And we share on Facebook, we share all sorts of different things. And I should emphasize that the door of the embassy is open. We're open to cooperation with whoever wants to cooperate. And if you are a business owner and you wish to cooperate on business, we can find the right partner for you in Israel. If you want to travel to Israel and you're not sure about how it works with an electronic visa, then you can speak to our consular department and we'll help you get there. And whatever it is, if you're interested in some sort of cultural cooperation, or if you simply have a group or a community somewhere in Norway and you're interested in either materials or that a representative of the embassy comes to speak, we're more than happy to do that. So it's about working together from a grassroots level up to the government level, finding whatever opportunities we can to cooperate, and working together we'll find the win-win, the mutual interest that we're all looking for.
Charge d'affaires, Eytan Halon, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Elisabeth.
And especially this day, we're just standing with you, and God bless you and the team, your office here in Oslo. So thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you.